Hello, Simon here from 3 Guys English, and in today's video we're going to look at the subject-verb agreement. This can be a very confusing grammar point for many English language learners, so in this video I'll give you an overview of how to use it correctly. So here is the lesson plan for today. We've got 5 parts to this class. It's a little bit long, I know, but hopefully I'll give you a nice overview of each section. So part 1, we'll look at an overview of singular and plural subjects. Part 2, we'll look at singular and plural subject with have and has, and then the be verb I and you. Okay, so let's just get straight into it, okay? Here we are. So this is what a singular subject positive sentence. Okay, this is what I mean. A singular subject means one thing. If you look here, we've got one person, he, one person, she, or one thing or object, it. And when we use this, we're going to put an S at the end. Okay, so he lives, she works, it produces, the company designs. This S is really important, and remember, he, she, it, or a company name or something's name needs to have a verb with an S at the end. That's really important. Let's look at the same thing now. He, she, it, the company again, but we're going to look at negative sentences. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky because the S is taken away. So it starts with he does not live. Not he does not lives. We don't want the S there. He does not live. She does not work. It does not produce. You see here, the S is taken away in a negative sentence. Okay, and that's the one thing that gets very, very difficult to go from positive sentences needing the S to a negative sentence without the S. Let's look now at the question. And don't forget, guys, you can just stop and pause the video if you want to study these tables in more detail. Here are the questions, okay, and how to make a question. Does he have a house? Does she work at a bank? Where does it produce, and what does the company design? Again, when we're making a question, the verb has no S at the end, and that's important to remember too. Another thing to remember that's important is we use the word does. Okay, this is really important to remember. Does he, does she, or where does it? When we use the subject he, she, or it, we use the question marker does. Okay, let's move on now to plural subjects. Plural subjects means more than one. So they could mean 2 or 3 or 4. They could mean the people, the friends, the workers, for example. Same with we, our friends, and the people. When we use a plural subject, they, we, our friends, the people, we use a verb with no S. So they lives? No. We just want to put they live. We works? No. We just want to put we work. So this is the easy one, okay? This is the easy one. You don't need to put an S at all. Same with negative sentences. We have no S also. They do not live. We do not work. Our friends don't create. No S at the end of it. If you've got a positive sentence, a negative sentence, there is no S after that, okay? Let's look at how we make questions. Now notice the difference, everyone. If we have a he or a she, it'll be does he, does she. But when we're using they, we, our friends, we're going to use do. Do they live? Do we work? What do our friends do? And how do people design computers? So that's the big difference. He, she, it needs does, they, we, our friends. Other things just need to use do. Okay? Tricky. Okay, let's have a little bit of practice, shall we? So, we live or we lives with my parents. Live. Okay, when we use we, they, our friends, we have a verb with no S. So, we live with my parents. Next one. My friends work for a social media company, or my friends works for a social media company. Same thing again when we use my friends or many people or plural things, no S at the end. Let's look at a negative sentence. She don't listen to pop music so much, or she doesn't listen to pop music so much. That's right. When we use she, he, it, we use does not plus verb. So she doesn't listen to pop music that much. Okay, question. Do she study finance or does she study finance? And what do they do or what does they do? Have you got the answer? Here you go. Does she study finance? Remember, he, she, it with does, and they, we, or our friends with do. I know, it can be a little bit tricky. So the best thing to do is just to rewind the video, go back, listen again, or check those charts again. Let's go to part 2, using have and has, another area that my students and lots of English learners always have a trouble with. So let's have a look. I've got a nice big chart here to show you. I've got the singular on this side and the plural on the other side, okay? When we use singular things, he, she, it, we're going to put has. So he has an expensive car, or she has an expensive car, or it has an expensive car. Now it gets difficult. When we make the negative sentence, we need to use have and the word does. He, she, it does not have an expensive car. He, she, it does not have an expensive car. If we're making a yes or no question, does she have an expensive car? Or an open question, what car does she have? Again, we're using the have. We only use have for a positive question using he, she, or it. Yes, I know, this is confusing. Even though it's one of the first things we learn in grammar classes, it's one of the most difficult to get correct, I think. Let's look at plural, because plural is easy. When we use we, they, or our friends, we just use have. Same if it's for a negative sentence, do not have. Same if it's a yes or no question, have, or an open question, we use have. So when we use plural verbs, we, they, or are, we're just looking at have only. However, it's the singular you need to focus on. I think if you want to study this by yourself or look at it again, focus on he, she, and it. This is the challenging area. The plural verbs are not so bad, but the singular verbs, subjects are much more complex, and it's much easier to make a mistake with these. Let's try a few practice questions, shall we? So, my friends does not have much free time, or my friends do not have much free time. Which one? That's right, my friends do not. And then, if it helps you to understand this, there's a pronunciation element with this as well. So, for example, my friends do not have. It flows nicely, but my friends does not have. It's difficult to say quickly. My friends does not have. It's hard to say that quickly, but my friends do not have. It flows nicely. So from a pronunciation point of view, this makes more sense. Another one, my father has a collection of photographs, or my father have a collection of photographs. Yes, my father has. My father has a collection of photographs. Part 3, you're doing so well. Kids, keep going. Now we're looking at the subject-verb agreement with the be verb with is and are. When do we use is and are? Again, another really confusing one in English. He, she, and it, we're going to use is. She is, he is, it is. If it's a negative sentence, you just put a nice not in there. He is not, or he isn't. And if it's for a yes-no question, is he or is she? For the plural side, also, when we use we, they, or our friends, you need to put are after that. My friends are. Our friends are not. Or are we, or are they, or are our friends teachers? Are they teachers? Are we teachers? So just remember, everyone, singular, he, she, it with an is. Plural, we, they, are with are. Okay, that's a hard one too. Let's go to the next one, a quick practice question. We is or are working late today, but my colleague is or are going home early. Let's have a look. So remember, when we use we, it's a plural subject, so we need to use are. When we use the word colleague, colleague just means one, so that's singular, so it's going to be is. Part 4, the subject-verb agreement with I. This gets a little bit tricky now because now we're starting to use two other subjects, I and you. So I kept this separate so we can study it as it's a little bit different from the other ones, and it gets a little bit confusing. So when we use I, we're going to use the be verb with am. So in the positive sentence, I am busy. The negative, I am not busy. And in the question, am I busy? Then when we use I, we're going to use the have. I'm not using has, just I have. So for example, if it's a positive sentence, I have an exam. A negative, I don't have an exam. Or if it's a yes or no, do you have an exam? Again, it can be a little bit tricky when we use all the different subjects, and this is something that confuses students, whether they are beginning their English journey or if they're far ahead in their English journey. It's still a very complicated thing. Let's just have a quick look at an example though. So we've got the example here. I is really tired from studying because I have an exam tomorrow, or I am really tired from studying because I has an exam tomorrow. Okay, you can pause the video if you want to think about it, but I'll give you the answer right now. Here we go. So I am really tired from studying because I have an exam tomorrow. Again, it can be confusing with all the subjects using he, she, we, it, they, and they all have a different connection to the verb, and they all have a slightly different way of using it, okay? But just remember, you can always go back in the video and look at those things again. Okay, let's look at the last one, the subject-verb agreement with you. Okay, this is a tricky one as well. When we use you, we're going to use the plural verb with are. I know in the previous video we've seen we and they plus are, but we also use the subject you with are as well. That's why it gets a bit tricky. So we've got you are busy, you are not busy, and are you busy? Same again when we're choosing between have or has, we're using have. You have an exam, or you don't have an exam, or do you have an exam? This is where it can get a little bit confusing. So my advice is, again, stop the video, go back to the beginning, check those tables again to make sure you really understand. Let's try a quick practice before we finish. Are you working tomorrow, or do you have a day off? Or is you working tomorrow, or do you has a day off? Yes, remember, when we use you, we're using the verb are, and when we use you, we're using have. We're not using has. Thank you again for watching this video today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time on 3 Guys English. Goodbye.